Hi, and welcome to episode number 2 of Modern Media Review. I'm Robin Gibson.
And I'm Sean Goligly. And I've just got to say, Robin, I'm pleased that we got to episode number 2.
Yeah, it's amazing. Stuff follows on naturally from episode 1, doesn't it, though? And after the disappointment of the Christmas TV ads we reviewed, we wanted to try and get vibed up again for Christmas, so...
And what better way to maul our way through 4 of the leading TV schedule magazines, which I'm telling you, run to about 300 pages, certainly in terms of the Radio Times.
Well, that's the Radio Times, mate. I mean, it's £4.90. It's very long, very strong, although it is still made in that weird kind of thin paper that old people's magazines are made on.
I'm just feeling it with you. But as I turn over the front page, I see there's an editor's note.
Yeah, he's very hyperbolic about the whole thing. The editor is Simon Frith, who... No, it's not. It's Mark Frith. The editor is Mark Frith. Who's Simon Frith? Let's start again. The editor is Mark Smith. No.
Now, that would be brilliant. If Mark E. Smith was editing the Radio Times, it would be an entirely different beast.
I think if they got Mark E. Smith, who's admittedly dead, and Jerry Sadowitz...
Isn't this guy dead? Because seriously, I'm telling you, this reads like he's dead.
You mean you're thinking of the old saying, you're already dead?
Yeah, basically.
He used to be the editor of Smash Hits when he was like 23 or something like that.
He was a young gun at one stage.
And then he was, well, everyone was. And then he was the editor of Heat, and then he was the editor of Time Out. So he's gradually ageing
with his audience. However...
And now he's the editor of Radio Times, and he's just as passionate about this as he was about the brilliant smash hits in the 80s. He says this is the beginning of Christmas. He says this is the beginning of Christmas. This magazine, this is it.
Well, I was going to say to you, just before we get into this, for me, Christmas, when we were working in Canary Wharf, Christmas always started around October, when in the wharf they put up the Christmas trees, and in fairness, I mean, they were pretty big and they were decorated, loads of baubles.
The baubles were the problem though, weren't they?
Because, they were the problem because on every other bauble it would be aware that you're being monitored by CCTV.
Anyway, the Radio Times, right, to me has made a big faux pas, despite the fact that being this is where Christmas starts, because the cover of the magazine is a big picture of the snowman.
Which is very Christmassy.
Yeah, it's a bit out of date though, isn't it? It's from the 80s. Anyway, so they've got the snowman and the wee lad in the cover, and you're thinking, well, they must have a new big thing here somewhere.
Well, they're punting something, aren't they?
Well, you just think that maybe they've got a new version of the snowman or something, so you start flicking through the crinkly small print pages on the thin paper, and you find probably the most boring article I've ever read, with an interview with someone called Michael Morpurgo.
Which I don't mind.
I don't mind him being there. No.
It's about as dull as dishwater, isn't it?
Well, apparently they've asked him to sort of write a short novel based on the snowman.
Well, the great thing is,
good for them. I hope he has a great time doing it.
Exactly. But
apparently it's so interesting, the first thing he says, that the first thing he thought he'd do is read the original.
Which I think is a great idea, because
It'd
otherwise...
put him on the right track.
Yeah, exactly, because otherwise the snowman could go a totally different way than the...
It could go like that famous Viz parody. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Simon Snowman, which was modelled on the same kind of artwork, but Simon Snowman was violent and foul-mouthed, and he went out drinking, gambling, and I think ended up being intimate with a snow lady behind a shed. Which is probably good as a short novel,
but probably not great for family viewing on the BBC.
A snowman version of the Skinhead novels by Richard Allen would be brilliant. Anyway, this guy's not doing that. He's been asked just to write a boring... Anyway, because he's been asked to write this, he's done a boring short interview with the Radio Times.
Which is not even worth mentioning, it's so terrible.
Well, we just mentioned it, but the problem then is you think, well, where's their new snowman thing? And then it says, the snowman, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Channel 4. And it just repeats. But in fact, what they don't
as we discovered,
on New Year's Eve, they have got a special show devoted to Raymond Briggs and the Snowman and all his other books. They haven't mentioned it up here at the front of the magazine. So when you get on to the best of, where Christmas really begins, the best of what's on telly at Christmas, it's all a bit kind of ropey. I mean, I will say on the spread of best of programmes, they've got this thing on BBC 4, which is probably one of their classic music documentaries with a lot of clips you've already seen.
Rehashed and regurgitated.
Claiming to solve the mystery, called Dreaming of a Jewish Christmas, to solve the mystery of why Jewish songwriters have written so many Christmas songs. But why shouldn't they, and why is it a mystery?
Well, I've got to say, it's one of the topics that comes up regularly in my local.
It is, yeah. Why did they do it?
I mean,
How did they do it?
And luckily, if everyone watches this on BBC4, the answer will be there. The question.
Apparently, they wrote "Let It Snow." Or one did. But
did it matter that he was Jewish?
No, not at all. But BBC4 have to recycle their old clips of music somehow.
Okay.
So that's why they'll do a hip hop documentary and you'll see the same film of Blondie that was from the punk documentary.
Yeah. And the same interviews.
And the other best of stuff, if this is the best they got, Morecambe and Wise. Lost tapes. I saw some of them the other day with Pete and Dud, and they were lost for a good reason.
It's like a lot of these things. It's like music, everything. The outtakes were an outtake for a reason.
Yeah, I know, because they weren't very good.
And I guess the only difference is that you're not paying 600 quid for a bound, gold-plated CD volume of the Beatles outtakes.
Exactly. You're not having to buy a box set on 180-gram vinyl or something like that just to find out they're a load of filler. I mean, Morecambe and Wise seems to be about the highest level you got on this little spread of best of the Christmas fair, because otherwise it's stuff like Mrs. Brown's Boys and things like that.
Which is one of the most popular programmes on TV, which I struggle to get.
Well, my mother says it's filthy. She said, "Have you seen this programme? It's filthy." And then she sat and watched it all the way through, just to confirm it was filthy, presumably.
And not enjoy it, of course.
Oh, she hated it. And then the rest of the...
Which is a lovely piece of masochism, actually.
I don't think my mum understands the concept. I think she just thinks it's filthy and wants to confirm that it's filthy.
Fair enough.
The rest of it, very thin features, all based around this kind of... They don't look like people actually did the interviews. They look like someone's just written it up. Like they've got My Kind of Christmas and what presents we'll give each other. The actual layout looks like a Franklin Mint ad for a Princess Diana plate. And that's the cat scratching the Amazon packages with unopened Christmas presents.
Just about to release all the urine.
Yes. So then you've got these features, right? My Kind of Christmas. With, who are they? The girls from Strictly?
It's
Claudia
Winkleman and Tess Daly.
Yeah, giving each other presents. Cheese. Big piece of brie one of them wants to give the other.
Which I think is interesting, given that the two ladies are probably on a shed load of money and could probably... Well, she's probably going to buy her a mountain of cheese rather than just some Dairy Lee or something like that. The
point about these interviews, however much cheese they buy each other, is that they don't ring true, you know. They're just...
Weren't you engaged?
No, not at all. It's just like someone who normally does the tea round has written the quotes up, and they've never even talked to these people. It's one of the most boring articles ever, outside of the one with the guy who's going to write the short novel about the snowman. Very dull. And then they move on to David Walliams.
Which, again, is a horribly cliched starting point, is if I was Prime Minister. I mean, Wasn't this invented about 1,000 years ago?
Yeah, and also he just says things
if
like...
I was Pharaoh.
Yeah.
What would I do? And I think he would give the same answer. Do you know what I mean?
Well, have Little Britain on TV all the time.
He'd basically say there'd be more of me on TV.
That's exactly what...
Or there'd be more of me in hieroglyphics.
Well, you know, as we go along, we'll find out there is more of David Walliams on TV, as there always is. And then you've got about 50 pages on this drama they've done about Torvill and Dean. And look, I do remember who Torvill and Dean were, but is anyone really that interested? Obviously they are.
Well, Torvill and Dean were the advertisers on your local cinema, weren't they?
Pearl and Dean. This is ice skating, right? I never considered it.
I was being facetious. It's Sarajevo, it's Bolero, and at the time it was a seminal moment for many people. I'm guessing for people of a certain age that are buying the Radio Times, it is almost like, well, probably one of the things that they can just about remember, to be honest.
Well, it says here, it just seems, you said this is all rehashed. It says, we did this once in the bus. We did kiss once in the bus. It just happened.
Well, I'll tell you what they should have said. The journalist who wrote this should have said, I did this once on a bus 30 years ago, writing about this, and I find myself doing it again. Torvill and Dean once maybe not kissing on a bus is something that I'm not really fascinated to read about.
Never. If you want a good thing about ice skating, I, Tonya is on Amazon Prime, which is...
Brilliant film.
Amazon Prime is not a brilliant channel.
It's appalling.
I'd be stretching it to call it a channel. Have you ever watched it? I watched the US Open tennis on it, and I tried to. It had about 2 camera angles, and the commentators sounded like they were in a shed on court 17.
Well, it reminded me of a documentary I watched about the first transatlantic phone call, where they spent about half an hour basically just going, what? Yep, what? And it sounded like WhatsApp when you call somebody further away than 20 yards.
You do notice when we was talking about the TV ads, Amazon weren't advertising Prime, were they?
They certainly weren't. Not on the back of that, anyway.
No. And then we've got some film previews.
But
it says the best thing on Christmas Eve is Mary Poppins.
Now, I've got to say, the best thing on Christmas Eve in the 1960s might have been Mary Poppins, although it wouldn't have been on either Amazon Prime or the BBC. You'd have to go to the cinema.
It was about this point I started having a look through the other channels because
you got bored with the best of Christmas Eve.
Well, I was trying to find,
something better,
something a bit different, and I found.
And what did you light on, Robin?
Well, what I found out was that PBS, which is a very good channel, if
I'm not knocking that,
not well funded,
very worthy.
On Christmas Eve, they've just given up on it completely, and they've got at 11:15 they've got a programme giving us a look at electronic warfare aircraft, and then on Christmas Day, in the evening slot, they've got a documentary about Crips and Bloods.
Well, put it this way, I think I'll be watching Crips and Bloods before I watch Mary Poppins. Oh man, it's just ridiculous. It's one of those things that when you get it, you're excited and you think, oh, I can't wait to wade into it. A little bit like how you would have viewed in your youth reading Ulysses or War and Peace. That sounds like a good idea until you actually get 6 pages in and you decide, what am I doing? And just leave it.
I had a flatmate who had a copy of Ulysses, right? And I went into his room once, not for any dodgy purposes, but I was in his room
to nick his Ulysses. But...
but I saw that he had Ulysses, and I was one of the people who'd, despite liking some other stuff by James Joyce, I'd only got to about page 29.
Oh, you did well.
Anyway, this guy had a bookmark in at page like 403 or something. I thought, that's bloody impressive.
No, he just did that to impress women.
It impressed everyone because months later the bookmark was still in the same place. No one's ever read the whole book.
No.
Anyway, we've got off the track here.
Yeah, we have.
To get to the very nadir, the whole bottom of the thing, right? I scrolled on to the 30th of December, a fallow period usually for Christmas festive TV, and I found on Channel 5 who do a lot of these things.
Sharks.
No, these
Nazis.
I love the 70s type things with talking heads who weren't born in the 70s.
Yeah.
They're having Britain's favourite chocolate bar with celebrities, including Joe Schwass, reminiscing about their favourite chocolate bars. It doesn't get any lower than that, really.
And I've got to say that if they're flagging it up as celebrities, including Joe Swash, who are the other celebrities?
Anyway, there's a lot of radio in the Radio Times, which I feel is
Do you know
quite
what?
quaint, really. They've got the radio stuff at the back.
But I'm very impressed with you because you listen to a lot of radio.
I do like the radio, and the most amazing thing about the Radio Times Christmas radio listings, sorry if I'm saying radio too much, they've actually got pages of local radio listings just telling you who's on, like BBC Scunthorpe and stuff like that. Things like Wally Webb at 4 a.m. every day on BBC Cambridgeshire.
I think I'm
going to listen to him.
Well, I'm going to listen to him too.
He sounds like Dave Clifton.
Just before I finally put the rope round my neck, following another disappointing Christmas.
No, Wally Webb will cheer you up, mate.
Well, you don't know that, do you?
No, I don't, but I'm going to find out. Best bit of the Radio Times is the final page, because they've got one of these things at the back where you get someone to have some closing words.
And who has been the man? Who has been the man of Christmas 2018?
The man who's got the most free promotion out of Christmas.
Yeah.
Apart from Kevin the Carrot.
Apart from Kevin the Carrot.
It's Elton John.
Elton John Lewis.
And they've got a big, well, a small type, but big Q&A.
Tiny font, I've got to say.
It's so hard to read. They're not thinking about the readers, are they?
No.
My dad would have to get a telescope out to read this. I'm doing pretty badly myself. Elton has been asked a few questions. They said, what would you like, not in general, but what would you like as a present for Christmas? And he's very graciously said that he's got everything he could ever need materially.
Wow.
But
hang on. That's pretty honest.
Did you know that last week Miss Universe was on? It's not on telly here though, but it was on. And Elton's given a Miss Universe style answer because he said what he would really like
world peace
is that he's saying what concerns him is a state of the world that my children are growing up in.
Wow.
It sounds cheesy, but I'd like to see a more united and tolerant world.
Well, I think I was very harsh on Sir Elton about his freebie money and promotion from the Elton John Lewis thing. So I take it back now. I take it back.
So he wants a united, tolerant world. Then it says, what are your hopes for 2018? 2019 even. I told you it was small print. And after all that stuff about his children growing up in a
He's going to say something profound.
He says, I hope people spend less time on their phones.
Okay. Does that mean that he hopes they spend less time on their phones when he's in some flash restaurant and it's bugging him when he sees somebody on the phone?
There's no substitute for spending meaningful time face-to-face with family and friends. I totally disagree with that. You know, when people slag off these couples or...
I do that.
You see them in a restaurant, well, they're more entertained. In the old days, you had to keep talking to the person you were with.
Oh, come on, Robin.
Bored you were.
No, come on. Robin, you're disengaging now. You've become so obsessed with the internet and media that you're becoming sort of like disengaged from the real world.
Well, Elton's just a walking contradiction, isn't he?
Absolutely.
He sings that song about he ain't got much money and he's got loads. It starts there and just goes on, but in fairness, worse and worse.
But in fairness to Elton, it wasn't actually him saying, I haven't got much money.
Yeah, it was.
It was Bernie Taupin.
Didn't we go through that last time?
Did we?
I can't remember.
Well, this is what reading 5,000 pages of old people's copy in the TV Times and the Radio Times does to you.
Well, the old people didn't write it.
But the point is, this is written for old people, and it's sort of by some osmosis. I'm feeling older now.
Well, you're going to feel older after you finish the TV Times, which says it's the original TV Christmas guide. What does that? How can they can't officially prove that, can they?
Well, isn't this just the world of sort of like fake news where you just claim something?
Yeah, just say.
Yeah.
It's not even got a very good front page. It's just a sort of cheap Christmas card type illustration of Santa and a snowman.
Well, I think one of the designers has taken a photo of a Christmas card and just stuck it on the front page.
I quickly flicked through this and I saw that it had Strictly Come Dancing, Call the Midwife, Agatha Christie, Mrs. Brown, Watership Down, and all the things that was in the Radio Times. But on page 22...
Hopefully we've got David Walliams.
My heart was warmed, because on page 22, we've got a piece with David Walliams, talking about David Walliams on his joy.
David Walliams talking about David Walliams?
No, he's not.
Okay.
I've misread that. David Walliams on his joy at bringing another of his best-selling books to the small screen.
It must be fantastic for him.
That's the key to it, isn't it? Bringing one to the small screen is good, but he doesn't know if they're going to give him an option.
I mean, I love the idea about joy to all at Yuletide.
Yeah.
But bar bringing joy to all, I'd like to bring joy to myself. And David Walliams has encapsulated that.
He has, yeah. He's a sort of role model for bringing joy to yourself. If you can just get your work on the small screen at Christmas. Again. There's another good bit in here, which, you know, they use these hyperbolic, to use the word for the second time, phrases like must see. Must see on demand. This spread, right?
Is a blitzkrieg. Blitzkrieg.
One of number 3 in the must see on demand, which is on Netflix, which I don't watch and I don't think I'm going to start. It's called Dogs, and it's a 6-part documentary telling the stories of exceptional dogs.
I think, Robin,
there's a picture of a dog here. I mean, it doesn't look that exceptional to me.
Well, I would imagine that if you'd headline something up as Dogs with a very charming picture of a Labrador, if you were at all interested in dogs, as they said in Jerry Maguire, you got me an hello.
They've got a dog, they've got a dog audience in mind with this, haven't they?
Yeah, I've got a dog audience in mind. But I can't see many dogs subscribing to Netflix.
No. And number 5 is a programme about Princess Margaret.
Which has been done already.
You know what, though? It's just a hyperbole at the top, must see. Princess Margaret, the Rebel Royal. That must be when she joined the Rolling Stones, right?
I think it probably was.
Good if they got some exclusive footage from that.
Rebel on Pall Mall, I think they were going to call that album, wasn't it?
This Exiles in Pall Mall. Yeah. This modest BBC Two 2-parter.
Modest?
Why are you going to watch that? It's modest.
Okay.
I see the cat still trying to get into the Amazon boxes in the background.
Well, obviously they put catnip in there for them.
The other thing I noticed here, right, is that it's got 8 pages or so of a festive soap guide. You know, EastEnders, like the BBC's biggest TV programme in the world.
However,
it's not in the Radio Times.
However,
the Radio Times is above it, mate.
The worst thing about... Yes, I agree with you. I mean, obviously the reason that the 2 others have basically gone with a Danny Dyer front page, or 2 of them anyway, is that EastEnders must be the biggest or most viewed.
We've got a demographic issue here, mate. Because the two cheap ones, which I'm going to give this, right, to What's on TV and TV Choice, which look like identical publications, don't they? I've got to admit that
Right down to the layout.
the layout, the logo,
Pictures,
the headline.
the colours.
But I actually had to ask who these people were, which makes me probably ill-judged to judge a...
You must have known Danny Dyer.
Well, I didn't think he'd be on the front page. I didn't realise he was an EastEnders. I just thought he was a guy that called David Cameron a twat.
With his trotters up.
And then called him a twat again.
But
here he is.
But with more punch, which was the great part of
The
it.
second twat was punchier than the first. It's the same people, and I don't know who the others are. These magazines are a lot easier to read, and they're only £1.20.
I can't disagree. Normally, I'd be against dumbing down, but less pages, because let's be frank, it's too much telly.
But then we're talking about demographic at the back of the at the back of the TV Times, because I don't remember these things having adverts in them before, you know. But they're full of adverts for.
Well, it gives you a clue to who is reading this these publications.
Well, it makes me think that young people aren't buying TV magazines anymore because they've got offers to fly a Spitfire, which maybe that makes us wrong about the demographic, because you can't fly a Spitfire if it's 75, can you? Stannah stair lifts, bath,
comfortable slippers, sovereigns,
and conquer the cold with. What are we conquering the cold with here? Heaters, clever stuff, and cheap, sexy girls.
Well, this is the interesting part of it, because alongside Stannah lifts, we've got phone lines at a mere £13 a pop, I believe.
35p a minute.
35p a minute, yeah.
Yeah. It's all a bit deflating, really. You got to the end of this hoping you would be excited for Christmas again, and then...
Well, it's a little bit like having gone on a very long, laborious journey, which started off...
Are you reviewing this podcast?
No. You've started off with much hope and expectation.
Are you reviewing this podcast?
No. And by the end of it, you get to dodgy slippers, sovereign rings, Spitfire plates, Stannah chairlifts.
That's just like life in general, isn't it?
It is like life in general, and I think that this would take us so long to read that we would not only have aged 20 years, but we'd have early onset Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I'm not going to read it. And what's more, I'm just going to look at the on-screen guide when I watch TV at Christmas.
Much easier.
I've forgotten where we started anyway, which might suggest that the early onset's already kicking in.
I can't remember.
Don't know, mate. I do know that there's not a lot more to say about this, and that's the end, but it's not quite yet the end.
Cheers.
But it is the end, nearly, of episode 2. And seeing as it's nearly Christmas, going to take a little bit off, but we'll be back in the first week of January.
With entrepreneurs, I believe.
Yeah, but we don't want to say too much about that, because no one knows about entrepreneurship except us.
Well, that's true. And we want to make our money before we tell everyone else how to make money.
That's right. Although a lot of these people seem to make their money out of telling people how to make money. A bit of a pyramid scheme. We'll expose all that and the inner workings of Elon Musk's mind.
Which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's actually listened to all this.
No one gets this far, Robin.
No, but if they have...
If they have, it's like getting to the 6th side of Sandinista.
Yeah. What's on that?
I have no
it's
idea.
Better than side 5, that's all.
Well, it's like getting to page 400... Where did your mate get to in Ulysses?
I just made that up. 409 or something like that.
It's like getting to page 410 of Ulysses. And on that note...
Well, no, we're not on that note yet. We've got to do all the stuff at the end.
What's that?
Well, we've got to say thanks for listening and have a look at the website. Remember all that? modernmediareview.com.
Absolutely, and we're also on Twitter. Channel on YouTube.
And on that note, yet again, as we did a few days ago, well, last week actually, we'll say goodbye.
And Merry
Christmas.
Goodbye. And Merry Christmas. Hopefully we'll be back.
And Merry Christmas.